Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to a GameMaker Studio 2 tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to create a random level generations project with a character that can move around and collide with these walls. And these walls are made up of just kind of a grid system and tiles, so they're not actually objects, but you can still collide with them in your project. So this is what we're going to be making. Quick disclaimer, first of all, this is going to be an advanced video, so if you're a beginner, this probably isn't for you. I'm going to be using data structures and some heavy math, and so I would recommend looking into some. I'll actually link some videos in the description that can help you to get some of the background knowledge you need to know first, and you'll definitely need to understand data structures, grid data structures specifically. So also I should mention that the source for this project is actually on GameMaker discord.github.io. This is a really great resource that has been put together by the GameMaker Discord, and there is just a ton of really great projects on here, and you should really check it out. The two that I submit here are, I put this project up here, which was a game that I made for the Ludum Dare, and I kind of cleaned up the code a bunch and stuff and uploaded it here, and then right here you can see this exact project that we're going to be doing in this video. You can download that here for free as well. So there you go. Let's get started. Oh, one more disclaimer. I haven't tested this in the trial version of GameMaker Studio 2, so I don't know if it'll work in the trial version. So if you decide to try and follow along in the trial version, you should know that it may not work. There may be limitations to the trial version that prevent this. I don't know though. In theory, it could work, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to do GameMaker language project. I'm going to name this random level generation video. Okay. And first thing I'm going to do is create a script. And we need to create some macros here that will store information about our grid. So I'm going to create a macro and call this cell width. And I'm going to set it to 32. And I'm going to do a macro cell height. And I'm going to set that equal to 32 as well. Oh, you don't have to do equal signs though. Silly me. We'll do another macro, and I'm just going to create some numbers that will represent different tiles in our game. So we'll do a floor tile. I'm going to do -5. Now these numbers, I'm literally just making them up on the spot pretty much. I use -5 because -4 is already taken. It stands for no one in GameMaker. So I just started with -5, but honestly I think they could be about anything and this would still work. I'm going to do -6 for the wall. And then, well, let's see, I don't remember if I even use the wall anymore. We might get rid of that. I'll do one for the void. We'll do -7. Now we need some macros for directions, and this will be for our auto tiling system. We'll be using bit masking, so north will be 1. West will be 2. And these are important. Macro east will be 4. Macro south will be 8. Okay, so those are important. They do have to be these numbers. The method that I'm using for the auto tiling, I'm going to put a link to it in the description, because as far as I know, GameMaker still can't do auto tiling at runtime. It has to be done in the level editor. So until we get auto tiling at runtime, I'm using a different method, and I'll link to that method in the description. Okay, so we've created our script and we've got our macros. Now what we need to do is create, well, let's set up our room a little bit here. So I'm going to open up my room. First of all, I'm going to hit F2 to rename it. F2. I'll just name it R_1. And actually this script will want to rename it too. Hit F2 and I'll just name it create macros. And then for the room size, I'm going to set it to, let's see, what did I use for the room size? Properties, room and physics. I can't even tell what I did. It looks like, I don't know, the room size doesn't look right to me. So we'll see, this room is currently, well, that's probably fine, whatever. So I think this will be good enough for now actually. So let's just create a new object and we'll name this object O_level. Now this object is going to control basically our level generation system. And the first thing we want to do is set, in the create event, we're going to call randomize. And this will just make sure that we get a different result every time we run our game. And then we're going to, well, let's see. We need to get the tile. And this is where we do need to actually do some setup in our room, which is what I was thinking beforehand. So we've got our instances layer right here, and we've got, let's create another layer for our level. F2, just name this level. And I'm going to drag and drop our level object onto this layer, the level. I'm going to put instances above this. There we go. And then I'm going to create a new tile layer, and I'm going to do F2 and name this wall tiles. And we want level to be above this, so I'm going to drag it up and put it above wall tiles. Perfect. There we go. Now we're set up there. We can come back into our workspace and start programming again. So we'll get the layer ID here, so we'll say var wall map ID equals layer tile map get ID, and we'll just get wall tiles, which is the tile layer that we just created, right? So we just added that to our room. Now we're grabbing it and storing it in this variable. Now let's set up the grid, and we're going to do width equals room width div cell width, and we'll do height equals room height div cell height, like that. We'll say grid equals, grid underscore equals ds grid create grid. Wait, no, we just pass in a width and a height here. So then we say width and height. Okay. Then we're going to say ds grid set region grid. So this is the grid we want to use. Then first we're going to pass in x position. We'll say 0 and 0 for our first point, x and y. Our second point will be width and height. And then the value that we want to set in this entire region is going to be void. So basically we're filling our grid with the void cell that we have previously created. And this is the macro, obviously. Okay. Now we're going to create the controller. So var controller x equals width. Let's see. Width div 2. That'll get us the center. var controller y equals height div2. So all we're doing is we're just creating variables that store the controller's position. So this is the controller's X position, the controller's Y position. So in theory, we're going to have a single controller that steps around in our grid and sets basically floor tiles everywhere that it goes. And it will move around in the grid randomly. That's what's going to create our level. So we're going to say var controller direction will be equal to irandom 3. So this will give us a value between 0 and 3, which we will then use for each subsequent direction. So 0 will be to the right, 1 will be up, 2 will be to the left, and 3 will be down. Then we're going to say var steps equals 400. This is how many steps our controller is going to walk around in our level. So basically, the smaller this number, the smaller the level. The bigger this number, well, the smaller the smaller the amount of floor tiles, and the bigger this number, the more floor tiles. Once we've done that, we can actually start. Well, we need to set up an odds direction change odds equals 1. This is the odds of changing direction. Odds. And so we're going to set it to 1 right now. Then we're going to repeat steps. So this is going to repeat all this, everything that's in this, it's going to repeat it 400 times. All of this. So we're going to say grid controller X controller Y equals floor. So this just takes our current controller position and sets that tile in our grid to a floor. Okay? Then, once we've set our current position, we're obviously going to want to move our controller. So we'll say if, well, this is going to randomize our direction, randomize the direction. We're going to say if irandom direction change odds is equal to direction change odds and let's see, okay, yeah, that's right. Then we'll say controller direction equals irandom 3. Then we'll say after that we'll move the controller. And we need to use the direction to move it. So we'll say var x direction. Well, this is getting the intended direction equals length 1 and controller direction times 90. Because remember, our controller direction is just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to multiply it by 90 to get a 0 to 360 range. Well, it doesn't go to 4, but yeah. We need to multiply it by 90 to get an actual direction. Direction equals length y 1 controller direction times 90. So here we go again. We are getting basically the new position, or our movement. This is our kind of our change in x and y. So delta x and delta y. But this is how much we're going to move. So we'll say controller dot x plus equals x direction controller underscore y plus equals y direction, like that. Okay. Now we've moved our controller. We need to make sure that our controller actually didn't go outside the bounds of the room. And for this part, I'm going to use 2. So basically, I'm giving 2 blocks on each side of the game that we can't go into, and that's to make it easier for our auto tiling, so that our auto tiling can go to 1. I think that's why I did it. I do have a reason for it, but if you do go outside of the grid space with your controller, you're going to get an error message in your output log down here, basically saying you went outside the bounds of your grid. So that's why we have to do this. If controller x is less than 2, or controller x is greater than or equal to width minus 2. So that's the range, that's basically the x boundary of our grid. Then we'll say controller x plus equals negative x direction times 2. And what this is going to do is basically change our controller x value so that it, instead of going 1 over this way, it goes 2 back the way that it was before. So it jumps us back to this square before the one that we were on. And we'll say if, and we just need to do the same thing for the y actually. So I'm going to copy it, Control C, Control V, change these to y. And do height right here. There we go. Okay, so that actually creates, that should create our level. That's really all there is for creating the level. But now what we need to do is actually create some tiles. So we'll need to create a for loop to loop through our grid. So we'll say for var y equals 1, y is less than height minus 1. Remember how I said we were doing 2 up here, so we could do 1 for the tiles. Y plus plus. We need to have at least 1 extra space for the tiles so that we can check each cardinal direction of the current tile we're on. So the tile to the right, the tile to the left, the tile above us, and the tile below us. And so that's why we need to have 1 extra square so that we never actually, if we go to the very end tile and we try to check the tile to the right, there won't be one there. So that's why we've done it this way. And that's why we've made sure that our floors never go past 2, so that we know that we should never even have to mess with those. Those end tiles will never be a floor, so we don't have to worry about it. So now we'll say for var x equals 1. X is less than width minus 1. X plus plus. Now notice that I'm doing underscores between in front of these variables. That's to make sure we don't get the built-in x variable. So you can't do this or this will mess it up. So make sure that you're not doing that. You could use XX instead and YY. Some people do that, but yeah, for local variables I use an underscore in front of it. That's just a variable with the var. Then we'll say if grid our current position, so x, y is equal to floor. Now we're going to set a tile here. Now we need to import some graphics, so come to sprites. I'm going to put these in the description, by the way, the sprites for this. So I'm going to import import this floor tile first. We'll just name it S floor tile. Did I make a tile set for this? Oh no, this is a background. Floor background. I could make a tile set for it real quick. Trying to decide. Yeah, let's do it. I want to show you this. So I'm going to edit this real quick. We're going to change the size here. And we're going to resize the canvas. We'll go to the right and we'll just change the width right here to 64. So we'll set this to 64. And what you should get is a tile. Basically this right here, we've got a blank space and then the tile right here. And that's what we need in order to use this as a tile. So S floor tile. Okay, then we'll create a new tile set and we'll select this. It's going to be 32, 32 for this. And there's our tile. We'll just name this T floor. Okay. There we go. Then inside of here, if we're on a floor tile, we can actually set this tile. So then we'll do, let's see, we'll do tile map set wall map ID. The tile index should be 1. And then we'll do X and Y for where we want to set this. And we should be able to run the game, and it should place these tiles if we don't have any errors anywhere. Okay, we're not seeing the tiles. Oh yeah, I always forget this. Come back to your room, and then click on your tiles here, and see how it says no tile set? We need to actually select the floor tile set. And then we should be able to run the game in theory. In theory, it should work now. And there we go. Okay, so we've generated a random level, right? That's pretty cool already. So let's add a new event to our level, and we'll just do a key pressed. We'll do letters, and we'll do the R key right here. And then we'll say room restart, like that. And we should be able to restart our room to generate a new level. Okay, so these levels don't look very good yet, and there's a lot that you can do to try and clean up your random level generation, because there's always that fine balance, right, between making the level random, but also not too random to where it looks terrible. So the very first thing we can do to do this is to just copy our for loop right here, just Control C, Control V. I know we're doing 2 for loops here, and it might be possible to only do 1. I didn't really want to look into it. Honestly, this code is only being run once during the create event, and we don't have like a huge grid size, so it's not too bad to run it one time when your room is when your level is very first loaded. Not too bad, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to check if we're not a floor tile right here. So we're going to say if we're not a floor tile. And then we're going to check each cardinal direction. So we'll say var north tile equals grid x y minus 1, so that's going to be above us, equals void. So we're checking to see if the tile above us is equal to a void, then this will be equal to true. Otherwise, it will be equal to false. Okay? Then we can say var west tile equals, and I'm just going to copy this right here. And how do we check the west tile? Well, it's x minus 1 and then take off the y minus 1 like that. Then we're going to copy this. We'll say var east tile equals x plus 1. Take off the minus 1 here. And finally, var south tile equals, paste this in, y plus 1. There we go. Now we're going to do some fancy math. And this, like I said, this is the bit masking method that I'm using. And I don't want to explain exactly how it works in detail because there's already a wonderful blog post that does that. I'm going to link to that blog post in the description. So we'll say var tile index equals north times north tile plus west times west tile plus east times east tile plus south times south tile. Now, because GameMaker starts counting its tiles at 1, we actually have to add 1 to this at the very end, plus 1. Okay? So GameMaker, GameMaker doesn't start counting tiles at 0. It kind of does, but the 0 tile is always a blank tile. So we have to add 1 in order to get the bit masking method to work. Then we can just say if tile index is equal to 1. Okay, 1 in this case is a floor tile pretty much. Then we'll say grid. No, it's a void. I don't remember. Grid x, y equals floor. It's a wall. That's what it is. Sorry. So this right here is a wall in our tile set. So basically we're just removing all of the single wall tiles. So I'm going to actually comment this out real quick so I can show you what I mean. So what we're doing is we're taking, see this spot right here where we've got this black single spot and there's no other black around it. We're going to get rid of that. So we're getting rid of single ones. Let's see if our code works. And there we go. You should see, we should never have a single black one all by itself now. And this generates okay tiles, or okay random rooms. So you can always mess with this to get something that you like more. But this is good enough for now. Okay, so now we're going to actually take this floor tile that we had, right? And we're going to edit the image again. Oops, not edit the image. Change the size again. This time we're going to go to the right, resize the canvas, set it back to 32, and press apply. Yes. Okay, and we can delete the tile here. Delete, because I just wanted to show you that it was working. Now what we're going to do is we're going to import some more sprites. So we're going to create a sprite, import the wall tiles right here, and just name this S wall tiles, and then we'll create a new tile set. Limit T walls, and select our sprite. Should be 32 by 32. There we go. Okay. Now come back into your room. Make sure you set your tile set over here for the wall tiles equal to wall tiles. Come into your level code again, right here. And we're going to copy this right here and paste it over the top of this. Bloop, paste it right over the top. But this time, instead of checking our index, we're just going to do tile map set wall tile map ID tile index, which we got using bit masking, X, Y. And we should be able to save. Then we can come into our room again and set our, if we go to our background, set our background sprite to tile floor and set it to horizontally tile and vertically tile. Save and run the game, and we should get auto tiling inside of our room. You can see we've got this empty space on the outside right here. We actually want that, and I'll show you guys how you can deal with that with your camera. So basically we'll just make the camera so it doesn't go outside of this space, because that was the easiest way to deal with it. But you can see this actually looks pretty good already for random levels. The auto tiling really helps it to feel not quite so ugly and feel more like a level. So I think that's all I'm going to do for this video. I'll do another video in this and finish it up so that we get the character movement and the shadows and stuff like that. But this is enough for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.